Some stories aren't told. They awaken on their own. Welcome to Whispers. They were not lost. Not yet. And that was the most dangerous part. Eric and Lena started the drive before noon. A small bag each. 2 bottles of water. 1 phone charger. 1 map they never unfolded. A quiet lake. A rented cabin. A promise to stay offline and breathe. The highway felt safe. Straight. Predictable. Sunlight slid along the windshield and vanished into the trees. Then the GPS recalculated on its own. Recalculating route. New path available. 22 minutes faster. The voice was calm. But the map was not. The blue highway line faded. A thin gray vein cut across the forest. No name. No number. No town labels. Just a line through green. Lena leaned in. That's not a road. It doesn't even have a marker. Eric squinted at the screen. It reconnects to the highway later. Maybe there's construction. Worst case, we turn back. He said it lightly. Like turning back was easy. Like every path that exists is meant to be used. The guardrail broke once. No sign. No arrow. Just gravel. Weeds. Roots. And shadow. The GPS arrow nudged. The wheel followed. They left the highway. The light dimmed. The trees folded over the sky like closing hands. Silence gathered. No birds. No insects. No wind. The engine sounded trapped, as if the air had thickened, as if the road was swallowing noise. Lena listened to the space between sounds. Do you hear that? Hear what? Exactly. They drove deeper. The forest pressed closer. Branches leaned in like eavesdroppers. The tires chewed stone and spat mud. On the right, half buried in moss, a shattered traffic mirror glinted once, then died. Old, cracked, its surface dull with dirt and a brown smear that wasn't rust. Lena swallowed. How long has this road been here? Eric didn't answer. He didn't want to think about roads that outlast names. The ground sloped. The car dropped. Metal scraped against something sharp. Eric braked hard. He stepped out to check the wheel. Cold air. Wet soil. A smell of old copper. The tire was torn along the sidewall. Not by rock, by wood. A plank with nails hammered through it. Bent, rusted, placed. He yanked the plank free. Splinters lodged in his palm. He stared at the nails. Someone put this here. Lena stayed in the passenger seat, staring ahead. She saw the trees straighten, then tilt back, as if something large had moved between them, as if the forest was trying to look normal again. The GPS flickered once, then whispered its last piece of advice in a broken throat. Turn. Le. F. T. The screen went black. Signal died. Radio died. Even the cabin seemed to breathe differently. Eric lifted the trunk, searching for the jack. The lid creaked. Cold air slid over his hands. The jack. A small hatchet they kept for camp wood. A coil of thin rope. He worked the jack under the chassis. Cranked. Mud bled from the tire well. Lena opened her door slowly. She stepped out and felt the ground. Soft, yielding, too soft for this time of year, as if the forest floor had been stirred from below, as if the roots had learned to swim. She walked to the tree line, not far, just close enough to read the bark. Shallow grooves, claw-like. No, not claws. Nails. Human nails pressed and dragged. Too long, too hard, too desperate. She looked down at the soil. 2 bare footprints. Wide, flat. The toes fused into long, tapering shapes. They faced the road. They faced the car. Fresh. Eric stood. He followed her eyes. He went still. Let's just lift the wheel and back out. We can reverse to the highway. Lena didn't respond. Her gaze had moved to something else. The fogging on the back window. Not outside, inside. 4 streaks sliding slowly downward, even spacing, no thumb. Eric's mouth dried. He whispered without meaning to. "Did you touch that earlier?" She shook her head once. He stepped closer to listen. There was breath on the other side of the glass. Not strong, not steady. A wet practice breath. Like air traveling through a place that wasn't made for it. The trunk lid shifted, gently, as if something inside had pushed once and changed its mind. Eric dropped the jack. He shut the trunk. He clicked it twice. He knew the sound would echo, and hated that the forest could hear them. He turned the key in the driver's door. Locked. Passenger lock. Back doors. He circled the car and tried them all. Lena stared over his shoulder. Mud streaks on the paint. 4 long finger marks just above the wheel arch. Dark, still wet. Her voice came out too fast. If it's inside, it didn't break in. It came with us. Eric forced a swallow. We'll walk. We'll find a rise. We'll get a signal. He said it, but the forest didn't believe him. Behind them, the underbrush sagged and lifted, weight repositioned. Not footsteps, not even crawling. Something dragged itself through leaves with patience. Lena stepped backward until her shoulder touched the car. Her eyes fixed on a wedge of darkness between 2 trees. Not movement. Absence. Light refused to land there. Then a new sound. Not above, not in front, underfoot. A breath. Slow. Close. The soil twitched under Eric's boot like an exhale trapped in dirt. He jerked his foot back. He crouched. He touched the ground. Felt the faintest ripple push past his palm and vanish. He held his hand to his face. It smelled like wet stone, and something older, like bone dust, like time itself. They both looked up at the same moment. Something had crouched on the branch above. They didn't see it. They smelled it first. Old damp copper, old fires, old skin that never learned light. A drop fell from the branch. It hit Eric's sleeve. Brown, almost black. Warm. Step away from the car. Now. Lena's voice broke. He stepped back. He lifted the hatchet without knowing why. It felt stupid in his hand. A toy against something that didn't understand wood. A soft tap came from inside the trunk. 3 times. Polite. Like knocking with the side of a hand that had no palm. Eric didn't move. Lena's chest barely lifted. Another sound rose in the trees. It wasn't language, but it yearned to be. Wet air pushed through a torn instrument. Eric closed his eyes for a second. He opened them. He forced his voice to be even. We move. Now. They followed the old track forward. Not far. Just enough to leave the car behind. The forest allowed it. For now. The path dipped again and opened a shallow clearing. On the far side, half buried in a hill of roots, a low structure. Not a cabin, not a shed. A bunker. Timbers, stone, a rusted door ripped off years ago. Lantern light leaked from slats in the lower wall. Eric stopped. Lena angled toward the door. Help? He didn't say it out loud, but the thought trembled in his eyes. She shook her head. Look, drag marks. Deep grooves pulled toward the opening, as if something with many limbs had pressed and slid, as if the earth itself had been carried inside on a body. Beside the furrows, a human footprint. Bare, normal, fresh. But it wasn't hers. It was smaller than Eric's, longer than Lena's. A shape that matched no one there. Lena took a step back. Eric turned and realized her hand was no longer in his. She had not moved. She had not run. She had not stumbled. She had been removed. 1 second she was there. The next there was air. Only air. And a tightness in the world where she used to fit. Lena! His voice shattered and returned to his teeth. The forest swallowed names and gave nothing back. Eric lunged to where she had been. He searched the ground. He traced as if the earth were paper and Lena's weight had left ink. No prints, no slide, no broken twigs. He looked up in time to watch the air behind him thicken. Not fog, not smoke. A shape built from silence. It exhaled. He felt it move the hair on his neck. He didn't turn. He couldn't. A pressure touched the middle of his back. Not a hand, not a paw. Memory. A remembering of hands. It didn't push him down. It didn't pull him inside. It guided him away. Back toward the old track. Back toward the road that would pretend to exist again once he left. He didn't understand. He didn't question. He moved. The forest let him go. It didn't chase. It had what it wanted. It would need him later. Time thinned. Night grew on every surface. His legs chose directions he didn't. He reached a crest. The sky reopened in ragged strips between branches. Headlights rolled like dawn over asphalt. A truck braked hard. A man shouted, "Sir, are you hurt? Were you in an accident?" Eric's lips moved before his mind arrived. There were two of us. Where is the other? He looked over the driver's shoulder into a distance that wasn't there. He said the thing that made no sense and would haunt him forever. One is always taken. One is always left. They searched for days. Drones, dogs, boots, maps. The satellite image that had shown a faint gray line now showed trees. Only trees. No road. No turnoff. No bunker carved into roots. No drag marks. No Lena. Eric told them the road existed, not for everyone. For some, when it needed to feed. They stopped listening. But the road did not stop calling. Every few weeks the GPS would open itself and clear its throat. Recalculating route. New path available. 22 minutes faster, the gray line would return without a name. It would lead to trees. It would appear even when the phone was off. Even when the app was uninstalled. Even when the battery was removed. He taped the phone shut and put it in a drawer. Sometimes the drawer rattled. He told himself he would not go back. He told himself he would not go back without Lena. He told himself 1,000 truths that felt like lies when night arrived. And then a message came that no one should receive. Not a call. Not a text. A file. Old. Corrupt. Unnamed. Timestamp 1991. Format unknown. The icon looked like a cassette drawn by a child. He tapped it with a finger that did not want to. The screen stuttered, then filled with hiss. Under the hiss, breath. A man speaking too close to a microphone. If you find this, don't follow the line on the map. It's not a road. It's a hunger. We thought it was a shortcut. We thought the cabin was empty. We thought we were the first. We were wrong on all three. A woman's voice cut in. Low, tired, exhausted like someone who has been afraid for hours. They live under the roots. They climb when it's quiet. They come into the places you think are safe. Her voice fell, then rose with a sudden clarity that felt like bone. They do not chase. They count, the man again. One to take, one to leave. So the path stays fed. We tried to mark the trees. We tried to mark the map, the woman, softer now. If you're listening, turn around. The road you're on is a mouth. The file ended. The phone crashed. The room was suddenly too small. The walls leaned in like trees. Eric didn't sleep that night. He didn't sleep the next. He put the phone in the freezer. He wrapped it in foil. He put it in a shoebox. He took it out again. He listened to the message 12 times. He memorized the hiss. He typed the date into search fields that returned nothing. He used names he had not said out loud. He found a forum where people collected roads that don't appear for everyone. They had stories with familiar teeth. They had maps that only loaded when you were already too far gone. One post mentioned a camp, an old Boy Scout site, closed in 1989 for reasons that read like weather but smelled like burial. A series of disappearances. A ranger who quit and never gave interviews. A fund that quietly kept the land off limits. A developer who tried to cut into the trees and packed up without saying why. Eric stared at a grainy photo of a wooden arch. Camp Hollow Creek. Welcome, the sign had once said. Now it said nothing, because someone had pried the letters off and left the nails like teeth. He printed the picture. He folded it into his wallet. He told himself he would not go. He went. He didn't take the highway. He took the long way. He took every turn that gave him time to think. The GPS stayed dark in his pocket. He drove until the trees rose and the road narrowed, and the sky forgot what noon looked like. A deer stood on the shoulder and did not run. He parked on gravel that remembered old boots. He stepped into the quiet that remembered old voices. The arch was gone, but the posts remained. Two blackened timbers with nails like rusted constellations. He found the fire ring. He found the picnic tables with names carved into them. He found a bench with a date, 1986. He found a totem carved from a trunk with eyes that never got finished. He found the mess hall roof collapsed under years of snow. He found the infirmary door chained. He found the trail map missing its map. He found something that did not belong in any camp. Symbols burned into a stump. A lattice of triangles and lines. Not a cult, not religion. A language older than both. A record of debt. He followed a trail that children used to run. It ended at a fence no longer there. And then the gray line appeared. Not on the phone. On the ground. The wheel ruts of a road that shouldn't exist. Cut into earth that had never learned to heal. He did not step onto it. He stood at the edge and listened. The silence that had held its breath the first time had learned how to speak. It said, "Come back alone." It said, "You brought one last time." It said, "We will do the counting." He closed his eyes. Lena. He said her name for the first time in weeks. He said it like prayer. He said it like apology. He told the trees he would trade anything. He told the road he would go in its mouth if it gave her back. He told the world he believed in debts. The world did not answer. The road did. It shifted 1 inch closer under his feet. Not movement. Adjustment. Welcome. He stepped back and the road did not follow. It didn't need to. He turned away. He forced himself toward the river. He forced his eyes toward the flat water that pretended to be calm. The river gave him something. A piece of plastic caught in a root. old, cloudy. A membership card from a video store that no longer existed. On the back, a name he didn't recognize. On the front, a sticker. Camp Hollow Creek. Session B. 1989. He pocketed it. He did not know why. The first voice came that night. Not in the woods, in his car, in the back seat. He didn't look. He kept driving. At the motel, a sign with a missing letter. VACNCY. He rented a room that had a light that hummed and a bedspread that remembered cigarettes. He turned on the tap until the water ran brown to clear. He splashed his face. He opened his eyes and saw a message on the mirror. His breath had written it for him. 4 lines. No thumb. He wiped them away with the towel. He didn't check under the bed. He didn't check the closet. He put the chair under the doorknob and lay down without undressing. He dreamed of tunnels that were not tunnels, of roots braided into ribs, of a mouth that learned to be a road. He woke to a new message on the mirror. Not lines, words. Turn around. He laughed once. There was no humor in it. He packed. He left the key on the desk. He didn't look at the clerk. The clerk didn't look at him. He drove home. He took the long way again. He made it to his street at dusk. The GPS turned on in the drawer in his kitchen. It spoke through wood. Recalculating route. He unplugged the microwave. He unplugged the radio. He turned off the breaker. He sat in the dark and listened to a house that wanted to be a tree. If you've made it this far, you already know this story isn't over. The forest isn't done, and the road, it remembers everyone who dares to take it. Part 2 continues the moment this one ends. Click the link on your screen and keep walking down the road. If you felt the chill tonight, leave a like and subscribe to Whispers so you don't miss what happens next.